You don't have to be a millennial to be socially savvy. We believe anyone can join Generation Social Media, and your journey starts now. This is the Generation Social Media Podcast by Chatterkick.
I know many of you in here, but I want to give you just a quick overview for those that may not know a lot about myself or Chatterkick. I started Chatterkick about 7 years ago, and my goal really was to look at these social platforms as a way to make connections and relationships. I came from the Chamber of Commerce world, where I was watching business deals happen all the time. They're relationship-driven businesses, and I saw the opportunity with social media to say, this is amazing. Let's take those exact same conversations that are happening around coffee tables and boardrooms and let those happen online. So that's kind of always the way that we've approached social media and the way that these platforms work. I have two people on my team with me here today, Molly Keel and Chris Severin, and they both work with me at Chatterkick. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask them. And we also have a couple of clients here today, so it's fun to have kind of a mix. I also do have a passion for supporting other females, specifically in the space of digital agencies and entrepreneurship. I go to a lot of agency events and summits, and there's a lot of guys in the room, so I think that we need to have more females and ladies in this industry. So I'm proud that we have a lot of females. Chris is one of the two guys at our team. We have 22 employees and 4 different offices throughout the US. So a little bit about Chatterkick. I wanted to kind of start and look at what is the landscape of the distributor model and social data. So we're kind of going to be looking at a couple of different things here and having the assumption that most of us are in the B2B sales world, right? Like the actual relationships that you're creating, and maybe in some exceptions you're going direct to consumer, but how do we do social media and how do we make it effective when we have multiple audiences, right? Because most of us, regardless if you are B2C, B2B, all those words have kind of taken themselves and put it to a side. It really is a person-to-person game. And we are going to be looking at this model of okay, I sell to someone and they sell to the end user. How do we help really amplify that message and get the most bang for our buck? And so what we're really seeing right now in the social media and distributor model is, first of all, many people who are thinking that they, let's say they're in agriculture, right? Let's take a John Deere example. They sell a tractor, the tractor sells it to the distributor, and the distributor sells it to the client, right? Many of you may have kind of parts of your business that are similar to that. Well, the trick with that is before, most of those people that, like the tractors, they just wanted to sell it to the distributors, right? But then they realized, you know what, we need to actually create more demand so that we can use that information to get into the distributors, to get into stores, to get good placements on their shelves. And so that's really what we're going to be looking at today, as well as how you can use that data to take it back to your business and say, hey, this is making an impact on what we're doing, and can kind of tie all of those loose ends together. Okay, this statistic I pulled directly from Facebook, and really what Facebook is telling us, and I love to put statistics out there that kind of break everybody's notion of where people are spending their time. We hear a lot of conversation about what platform is best for what audience. There is a lot of validity to that. But what I want you to think about is not so much of the demographics that are on these channels. The notion that young people are here, older people don't do this, decision makers don't make decisions on these platforms. If we can just take that to the side and say, let's think about mindsets. What are people thinking about when they're on the platforms? So the reality is decision makers spend 74% more time on Facebook than the average Facebook user. So what this means is they're not necessarily making business decisions at all those points. They're probably looking at family photos, they're looking for, their friends and their family. They're connecting. But what these platforms allow you to do is if you have the right content at the right time, you can slip in between those family photos and pet pictures and, causes that support their beliefs and interaction. And so you have to have that right messaging. Otherwise, you're really not going to be able to stand out. So the reason I use that statistic is really just to show that, yes, you need to have a channel strategy, but maybe it's not what we always think it is, and maybe it's not just trying to reach young people on Instagram and older people on Snapchat and LinkedIn. Oops. So here is the biggest opportunity that I think most people miss. And what this really is going direct to the consumer, even if you're not actually selling to the consumer. So showing your product's advantage, validity, the power of people wanting your product, even if that's not the actual person you're selling to. If it is the person you're selling to, you get double bang for your buck, and the strategy just really ties itself in a bow. But even if it's not the person you're selling to, maybe you're selling to the retailer that's selling to your end user, having that product demand is so important because it allows you to take that data and say, here is our proof. People want us. They want our product. They want us in your stores. So, I'm not selling this to you. Let the data sell this to you. And I have a couple examples here. So let's start with a couple of food retailers. So, not retailers, distributors. So this particular instance, in the food game, this probably directly applies to you. You could 100% apply this to, the pet food category as well. But people are in discovery mode when they're in social media. They're looking for new things, they're trying to find recipes, and they love a new product. So if you have a product that you haven't repitched in a while, find a way to make it cool, sexy, appealing again. So, and that from a content perspective, it could be the exact same product, you're just kind of making it fresh and new. So there is a ton of hashtags that are going on these platforms, and that's how people are using discovery specifically on Instagram. So don't just think of the primary category that you're in. This is a funny one because food porn is one of the top hashtags on Instagram. Businesses are not using it because they're scared of the word. So if your business is somewhat okay of you using that word, you have the opportunity to get into that primary feed. There is a lot of other hashtags that people are using, but businesses are afraid to use. So just be aware of that. Even if you don't use it, realize that this is something that you're saying no to, right? It's out there, we have the opportunity to use it, but at this point we're gonna say no.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
I'm so sorry.
No, you're fine.
About hashtags. So I've heard two rumors that you're not supposed to use the same hashtags over and over again, but that might have changed. So I'd love your insights on that.
Yeah.
Because for us, we'll always use hashtag steak, hashtag whatever. And then also, so something that has that many images, I've also heard that for someone like us, where we only have 35,000 followers, right? So it's harder for us to show up in discoverability with such a large hashtag. So would you actually encourage us getting into those?
So I would encourage you to use hashtags. I would mix up the order of the hashtags, but I have not seen, we manage, I don't even know how many different assets, more than probably, I don't know how many Instagram assets, but I would say more than 60, and big and small, and no effect of negativity with hashtags. Actually, there's been research to show that the more hashtags that you use, I think it's a minimum of, 30, I think? Whatever the minimum or the maximum is, use those. And the other thing with those hashtags is vary it up. So sometimes you can put it as within the body of the content, and then the other you can post a comment after. There's been research that shows one of them kind of moves the needle on exposure and the other moves the needle on engagement. So test it. do a couple in the body with the like 3 dots, do the next in the first comment. The more that you can just keep switching that stuff up, the more opportunity you'll have to get into the different algorithms. I wouldn't use the exact same, like I would tailor a handful of the hashtags based on whatever context it is. So like grilling season, or summer 2019 recipes. But I would highly recommend, recipes are huge on Instagram hashtags. So find the ones that are relevant, but you can also start searching and see the top post. So, and one thing to do, specifically if you're on your phone and you have like a very like mobile posting strategy, is take those hashtags, put them in the notes on your phone, and then copy and paste and then just edit from there. Otherwise, you're literally typing them out all the time. And we've found that works really well for events or for recruitment job fairs, that works really well. Or if you're just in the moment and you don't want to have to type in 30 different hashtags, that definitely helps. You can also see, don't forget, you can see if you get featured in the hashtag story. Like that is a feature that you have to go within Instagram to see. But local hashtags, I tell you what, you can get in them just by using Omaha, Sioux City, these small towns, because there's not a lot of people using those local hashtags, so it's much easier to get into those mixes and the feeds. The other thing, we're talking a lot about the Facebook family of apps. So really what that is, it's Facebook and Instagram are the two main players. And then you have the audience network, which is an entire ad network that feeds off of Facebook advertising. So it typically is on by default. If you're just placing an ad, you have all of the placements available. But there is some really great opportunities to get in front of people on the audience network, and they don't have to be on Facebook. They could be on another app that they're playing a game on, and your ad and message could come and appear within that app. So very powerful, doesn't cost any extra money. For some categories it works really well, but I would just say test and see what works best for your brand. Okay, so how do you align that online data with your product data to leverage sales? First and foremost, if you don't have a where to buy and you are in that parent-child relationship with a distributor to a retailer, first biggest opportunity. And you could do this from multiple categories of businesses, but it's the easiest to explain of the where to buy. So the reason why this works is because you then can go directly to consumers and market to them, even though you don't sell the product. Maybe you're not selling, that restaurant quality meat, or maybe you're not, directly providing it to your end consumer, but you have the data. We've done this with clients in the ag space, and they sell specific products, but they don't sell them direct. They sell them to the retailers. And guess how they get into new markets? Guess how they get into new stores? They take that data from people looking where to buy. They go into the store and say, we've had 3,500 people say they want this product in your market. Do you want to be the first XYZ retailer? And they're going into Home Depots, Menards, big retailers, and they're like, yes, you have the data. And their sales team is completely armed with that social data. And in many of our companies, those live in silos, right? Sales is over here, marketing's over here, results. But if you can find a way to tie all of that together, and this is one step to do that, a huge opportunity to be able to leverage the information. Another thing, a huge opportunity, is tagging within the context. So I'm going to try to explain this in a very broad way, but so many people use social media management softwares, right? Raise your hand if you're using a form of social media management softwares to post. Okay? No? You guys aren't? Okay. So there is, this functionality is really only available if you have a third party that you're able to do it. But one of the things that most of you are missing in your general social media data that Facebook just gives you, right, is the ability to see the context on a macro scale. So your social media management software may be able to tell you if it's positive or negative, but they can't tell you how many times a candidate came in asking for employment. Like, you'd have to go through your comments, you'd have to go through your posts by others, your Instagram comments, your direct messages. One of the biggest opportunities people have is, and it is a manual process, but you can go in and tag manually when you're responding back to that person when they're asking a question, hey, this is a prospect, this is a lead, this is a candidate. Okay, so that's like one, like tagging the people. But the other thing is tagging what they're talking about. So if you're trying to get into a new market, or maybe you're trying to get into a new placement on the shelf, right? Like, we have a client and they have pre-packaged, it's fully cooked meat, but they are in the raw hamburger section, right? Most people would think they would be in the pre-packaged kind of refrigerated section, but their placement in their stores right now is in the raw, next to the raw hamburger. Well, they're trying to move that shelf placement, which is really tricky in the world of grocery stores. So every single time someone can't find their product and they're asking people on social media, where can, where's your product? I can't find it. Oh, it's in this grocery store. We're having these dialogues all the time, and you're probably as well. But we just make a note, we tag it on the back end, and then we can take that data and say we've had 35 people looking for our product in your store. They can't find it. We need to get our placement moved. Huge opportunity. It's manual, but it's a big play for trying to understand what's the quality, what's really happening on the floor level of conversations and relationships. In the trucking industry, I think one of the biggest opportunities is really on the, if you're using it for recruitment. Because most of the time, like, people are asking questions that could lead to a prospect. So like, what's the mileage rates? What do you pay? All of those questions that are like pre-applicant should be calculated so that where's our bottlenecks, right? Like, we know that we're getting 100 people a month asking questions, but we're only getting 10 applicants. Maybe that's a problem with our ease of application process, or maybe they're getting the answers but they're not liking them and we need to reevaluate our benefits or the way that we're positioning things within the market. So being able to just mark those, and really it's a count in many regards, is a huge opportunity. The next is social proof. So really showing the excitement around your product. When you look at ROI on social, it's very difficult to calculate it. But if you have a brand where people are generating content on your behalf, in other words, they're taking pictures of themselves with your product, or anything in the community that is being a champion or a cheerleader of you, guess what? They just saved you a ton of money to try to create that content yourself. So the more that you can leverage that user-generated content, it will save you money on content development, and people respond to it so much better. So when you're looking at how do I understand, what my ROI is of social and how do I leverage the data, like, the data is how many pieces of content did we have created for us, not by us. We didn't have to pay anybody else to create that content. That, one, can show value of like savings, cost savings. And two, there is just a great social story to be had with that, to say, man, like, these people, not only people want us in their market, but they also are so excited about our product that we have lots of engagement, lots of fans. That means a lot to what buyers are trying to discover before they actually say yes to having, your product in their store or selling it to their audience as a retailer. Another thing, again, I'm talking about the tag side of it on the community support. So you can tag additional vendors or supporters or influencers. And I think the word influencer gets thrown around a lot, right? But don't forget that sometimes influencers can be employees. Sometimes influencers, and they should be your best influence, honestly, because people that love you and really enjoy working for you, like they're gonna tell your story better than you can or anybody else. So really giving them that opportunity. And then where are other people having conversations with us? Who are the other supporters in our network? And maybe it's just your online champions. And if you have somebody that every single time you post and you're doing the moderation, right, they are like, come to your defense, like, we love you, thank you. Why not just send them a note, a thank you note, or maybe a little gift, or maybe send them your product? That online cheerleading is just as important, and maybe they don't have 100,000 fans. But guess what? If you do that one little thing, they will consistently be your champion. They will respond to you. They will fight for you when someone says something bad. And again, that's worth a lot of money because they are your cheerleader. Social advertising. So we have a couple people that want to know more about that. That's awesome. Who in here is doing social advertising? Are you guys doing any ads?
We did it for recruiting drivers
Okay.
a little bit.
And are you getting into the ad manager and kind of pulling on the levers and?
A little bit.
Okay.
Very, very minimal, but a little bit.
Okay, awesome. How about you? Have you done social media ads at all? Not so much?
I don't do that.
Okay. Do you have someone on your team that does? Okay, awesome. I know you guys have done that. We do yours on your behalf, so there's a lot of ads going on.
I know you do ours on our behalf, but I think that's something that we're looking into is how do we do that?
Yeah, like what it looks like on the back end.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Yeah, we can definitely give you some insight into that. And you guys said you have a third party that kind of runs yours, and you're kind of the same way. You want to understand how they work and the information that you can pull from there, right?
Yeah, and just give a better direction, right,
Yes.
as well, because the strategy and everything comes from us.
Yes.
So how can we capitalize on that?
Yes. So I think the biggest opportunity that you have to help, whether it's direct your agency or learn about it on your own, is what's happening in your business and how can you learn. Like learn from the audience what they like. Because the one thing that we can guarantee every single person that runs social or does social advertising is that they will get data from it. They will get metrics and information back from the ads. Even if they don't perform well, quote unquote, you still get information. So a couple of the things that you can do. So one thing is creative testing. So let's say your target core demographic is females age 35 to 65, and you know that they are the primary decision makers. They are your largest target, and they make most of the decisions in the household about your product. So now how do you go from there? Well, you take that audience, you get it as ideal as possible, and then you basically have ads that will run. And Facebook, if you set them at the optimization level where Facebook just kind of goes and does its optimization thing in layman's terms, it will tell you what ad is performing best. And so why? Why is that ad performing best? We've ran ads for the Chamber of Commerce for 5 years. They have one ad that is consistently, we could put any photo with it, but the words, it says something like, connect with us to be the first to know about new businesses that come to town. That is the thing that people care about. And that is a great business insight because everything else that they're trying to sell, yeah, it might work every once in a while. It may be relevant, timely, but there's that one message that people are hungry for. So if I was that business at the Chamber, I would just completely lean into that's what people want. Let's set up a newsletter subscription form for that. Let's nurture these leads of people that just want to know new businesses coming to town and then ask them to be a Chamber member, right? It gives you that information straight from the ads. Another thing that you can gain from advertising specifically is click-through rates. So when you look at, is this ad working, right? There's obviously a conversion at the end of the rainbow, which is fine, but some of organizations don't have that ready to go. Or maybe their buying process is really long, or it's not just about the sale. So when you have that, when you don't have that conversion, you need to find other points in there that you are going to be able to find information on. And click-through rate is a really great one because it shows you how relevant is your content, right? You show this to 100 people and 50 people click, that's pretty relevant, right? That's a high click-through rate. So that's a really good metric to measure those ads as click-through rates. Another really great one, so different ad objectives, there's like 7 different ad objectives, or maybe even more than that now. They all have different areas that you can measure. So some of it just completely depends on what you're trying to do. If you're trying to sell e-commerce products as opposed to trying to drive them to a website, or maybe you're trying to get direct leads, all of that stuff can completely depend on the ad objectives. But when you're looking at advertising strategy, you want to look at, are we reaching the right audience and do they like what we're saying? Are they taking action on our behalf? And even if it's not action of sale, is there intent? Is there engagement when we're not trying to get engagement? Are they connecting with us and liking our page? Are they going to our website and spending some time on our website? Those are all like data points that you can use to understand what creative works, what pictures work. Do they like real pictures or stock photos? That's a great testing. Should we use targeting that is exactly the interests? So for example, should you use targeting like for leadership and strategy and management? Should you go into Facebook and say, I want to find people who like management resources, HR, leadership development, and put all those in? Or should you say, maybe I should actually target people who like Inc. magazine, Forbes, HBR, because you know that those people are these people, right? But your targeting is just very different. So I encourage you, when you're looking at the ad strategy, not to just think of, we need to hire nurses, so we're going to put people who like nursing. Or should we look at targeting that people who like scrubs, or people who like this kind of schedules or memes. Humor accounts are awesome if you're trying to target the trucking community or specific hiring niches. Using humor works really, really well. Another thing on that same note for advertising, you can use humor to weed people out. So if you have a product that I'm going to use the trucking community. Only truck drivers get trucking jokes, right? Like there is no one else thinks it's funny because they can't relate. And humor is a very great way to connect with people who are like in your tribe, right? You could do the same thing on the food side of things or even with management where only those type of people understand that. So what you could do is you show an ad to that group, and it's a wide group, just people in this geographic range, this somewhat demographic. We're going to keep a lot of people in the mix, let's say 1 million people in the mix. And then the people that engage with that piece of content, they get the next set of ads. So because you can target people who have engaged with your first group of ads to see your second. And that's how you kind of build that funnel down the road. But it's a really good way to start weeding people out without having all the targeting. So a lot of the questions we get on here is just, how much should I be posting? What channels should I be posting? 3 to 5 times a week is really minimum, which we would like to see. If you start getting under that range of whatever channel you're on, you become kind of so quiet that it's hard to even start inching your way up there. Now, some brands, post a lot, and that's okay, as long as your content's relevant. I wouldn't worry about it. But if you start to see your reach or engagement per post start dipping, that's really where you need to kind of rethink your strategy. I was listening to a podcast about the CMO of John Deere. And she was very open about their strategy, and she said they kind of got a slow start in social media. Big company, lots of moving pieces, lots of different audiences they were selling to. And she was saying that they were pushing so much content. Every time a sale went on, post on Facebook. Every time they had a campaign run of any type, they would post it on their social accounts. And they were just overloading their channels, and they saw it because their reach was 0.001% of their audience, and their engagement was extremely low. So that is a good indicator. If your engagement per post is that low, definitely something you want to pull back. Now, if it's 1% to 2%, that's probably about average without doing paid spend these days. You start getting higher than that and you really are above average, and that means your content is really connecting well with the audience. Okay, so let's look at your customers specifically. And again, this is kind of on your B2B customers, so maybe they're not the end users. And I put people who buy from you because everybody's customers in this group is a little bit different, and you may have multiple customers in your business alone. So let's look at if you're selling to people that, again, sell to someone else. How many of you have that model in your business? That you guys do, I know. Are you guys all selling directly to your customers? You guys on the trucking side, do you have a direct customer, or do you do one hop?
Yeah, we have direct customers.
You direct customer. You guys have direct customers. Do you guys do restaurant sales stuff at all?
We do have a B2B team, but...
Okay, that's not you guys. Okay, gotcha. So I'm going to actually just touch on that. I can connect with you separately because it is a very different strategy. But figuring out the balance between LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram is probably where a lot of conversations should be happening right now, because they are all valid channels. And if you have the bandwidth to support all three of those, awesome. Twitter is different, YouTube is different, and Pinterest is different. Those three have kind of this other strategy that we'll kind of set to the side. But LinkedIn, Instagram, and Facebook, if you are in the B2B world, I think is one of the strongest suite of tools that you have available. Some of you may lean more so to the Facebook and Instagram tools, Facebook and LinkedIn, but I would include Instagram because I think Instagram has so much power right now that really using that tool to build an audience so that you can use it next year and the following year, I think is going to be really important to consider. When we look at the difference between the two, really it's the content strategy. And the ad strategy follows that. But LinkedIn, people are in that business mindset. So if you're saying something on LinkedIn, you can get a little bit more technical. Personal branding of your executives. Even if you are a massive brand or you are a small brand, your executives should be branded on their LinkedIn pages, and they should be putting out or even sharing some sort of relevant content because people are looking up to them. Your customers are looking up to them, your employees are looking up to them, and they need some sort of presence to be able to say, hey, I know what I'm talking about and I'm here. Okay, so LinkedIn personal branding, important. LinkedIn company page, also important. So I would definitely use that tool. LinkedIn is seeing some awesome organic reach right now. So if you're in the B2B space and your audience is really a business professional, this is the perfect hat for you to wear on LinkedIn because you talk about business. It fits. You don't have to worry about crafting the message and changing it. Facebook, on the other hand, remember those decision makers are on Facebook, but they're in a different mindset. So they're either discovery mode, they're looking for entertainment, they're looking for some sort of utility. How can I use this? And it better be a strong enough message to kind of get me off the couch if you really want someone to take action. You got to offer a good deal, get their attention, make it funny, say something wild and crazy. That's really what is getting the attention now, and you can easily align that to your brand. It's just a matter of kind of mixing that art with the science. Instagram is another really great tool for businesses to use, especially even if you're in the B2B space. We have some of our clients using Instagram for recruitment and employee engagement. That works really well. Instagram stories are amazing opportunities to showcase your products and tell what you do. Behind the scenes, sneak peeks, how-tos. Just even taking your blog posts and breaking those up into small doses in Instagram stories is a great way to get more leverage out of the content you're already creating, and kind of breaking that into smaller pieces so people don't forget about your hero posts. Okay, other questions on that stuff? No? Good? So how can you take these strategies, which seem like big pie in the sky things, they're sometimes confusing, different for every business, and how can you bring that into a tangible, feel-good moment? One of the things is attention. So if you have enough volume of messages that you can't get to everybody, just making sure that you're responding to the messages, being human and giving people legit attention sometimes suffices. Secondarily, like, give them something. Take a swag bag. Go creep on their social profiles and see what they like. Do they like hunting? Do they like fishing? What do they care about? Because if they care about something specific and you send them, let's say, a box of your products plus a fishing lure, or you send them the tools that they need to be successful at their big conference, and it's a notebook, and you just write a little note, you can source all that information from social. Who are your champions on your page? Your top fans? Who's commenting, interacting? Your customers that are on there, right? Your customers are probably worth a lot of money because they're big customers, so send them something special. And guess what? They're gonna remember it, and not only that, they might even share it online, and now you got that cycle going again. And don't be afraid of a free t-shirt. We have gotten people to do so many things for t-shirts. T-shirts on social work, and it seems so crazy and silly, but contests, t-shirts, all of that stuff, they're still a thing on these channels. And you know, we saw a lot more of them 5 years ago, but as long as you kind of play within the rules, those things still work, and you just kind of gotta be careful of what you give away. And what I'm saying on that is, I've seen a lot of businesses give away things that are completely irrelevant to their business. An example that I use oftentimes is we had a news station in town, and they gave away a snowblower, right? Really not relevant to the news station. People just wanted to like their page because they wanted the snowblower. Well, they did this contest, and don't have people like your page to be entered, right? That you don't want to do that anyways. But they did that, and so they had this huge influx of likes on their page because people wanted to like to enter, right? And so they went from like, I don't know, a couple thousand fans, like 20,000 fans. So they had all these people liking their page. And then guess what happens after the giveaway? Unlike, people actually thought about unliking the page, or they saw the content and that wasn't their local news station, right? That's something you don't want to follow if you're not connected locally. And then it tells Facebook, oh man, like, wah, wah. You just had this huge like purge of people on your page. It's giving you negative social signals and actually doing the opposite of helping, which is what they wanted to do. So contests are great, just be careful. The best contests are those that are the most aligned with your brand. So a fun t-shirt that like talks about being an influencer, or like a funny saying that's connected to your brand. I've seen like cooler giveaways, or like a, like we were talking to a rodeo, they have this big rodeo, and they have camping there, and we're like, you should give away a camping pack, right? Like a Yeti cooler and some fun t-shirts, and it's a grassroots event, so it's a great way to kind of take that and expand on it. It's still relevant, so definitely way more connected to what they were actually trying to get in front of and do. And sometimes you can just give your employees t-shirts that are fun and funny and say, go take pictures of yourselves in the t-shirts. That also can work. So I really like this quote because Gartner did a lot of research on B2B companies specifically, and they were talking about decision making especially for consumers that had long processes, right? So if it's going to take me a long time to decide, what company I want to go with, or the decision-making process is long, what they really found is it wasn't actually what they knew, but it's what they feel about what they know. So they want to feel like they're empowered to make all the information, or to make the decision with the information. And what this means is if I Google your company, right? Especially if you're playing on Amazon, people are still going to come back and see you're credible and that you have a solid brand, that your products are good. They're going to look at your reviews. They're going to look at all the assets, right? They don't want just one credible site. They want 20. Especially if you're at a higher price point too. That makes a big difference. And they want to feel like that information is in their hands so that the power and decision making is in their hands. Very different than just the clicking the button that sometimes we assume people do. They're doing their research, and it plays a critical role in how you play on social, because if you haven't updated your Twitter profile, or if your big push is innovation and technology and you have nothing about innovation and technology on your channels, you're going to get missed. Or that one little misalignment could make a big impact on behalf of your brand. So definitely something to keep in mind. I always tell people when they look at their core values, I should be able to easily pull those core values based on their content, or the initiatives they're trying to do, or what the stories that they're trying to tell. Those should be directly aligned with your business goals. Otherwise, you're never going to be able to pull that circle and see that true ROI loop that everybody I know craves, and especially executives crave that don't get social media. It's really important for them to understand business goals. This is how I'm tracking them, and this is how it will spit out the information that we need.